those on a rock by the gate, you might get enough service to send a text message. Has never worked for me in the years I've been up there. So the closest places to get service are actually going to be driving back into town, which is about 40 miles either direction. So just plan ahead for not having any cell service while you're at camp. We do have really limited Wi-Fi. It's satellite, so it's kind of slow. It can load basic email, but if you start to try to do a phone call or video call on it, it cuts out pretty quickly. And then it also overwhelms our cap for the month, which is problematic when we need it to order food and communicate with leaders before they come up. We do also run on a generator. So we have power overnight, or we have power during the day, but not overnight. What that means is that the generator comes on at like 6 in the morning whenever the cooks get up, and we have power through the day until about 11 o'clock. So if you want to charge any things while you're at camp, or if you need to charge like a CPAP machine or anything like that, you just want to make sure you do it during the day and that you have battery packs for those overnight. The next thing that a lot of you are probably wondering about is the campsites. So all of our tents at Pioneer are canvas tents. They're 2-person tents with a wooden platform and then a canvas top. And then each campsite also has a wash stand, access to a kaibo, and its own fire pit. We will be putting multiple cohorts into campsites this summer. So you may be sharing a campsite either with another cohort from your troop or a different troop, or if you're a large enough unit, you may actually be spread across multiple campsites. As was said in the council meeting, if your troop has preferences for being either having those cohorts placed together or placed separately based on what is going to work best for your scouts and their ability to maintain social distancing, please let us know before you come to camp. You can do that by notifying the gal who does all your registrations or by emailing camp, just so I have that information and we can place you accordingly. The other thing to note about Pioneer is that we're centered around a lake. You can see it here in this picture. It's Pine Ridge Lake. And the whole loop around the lake is about half a mile, and there is no car access beyond the parking lot. Our roads actually don't take cars for most of the way around camp. So please come prepared to carry your gear in. We do have some wheelbarrows that you can use to get to your campsites, but this is a great opportunity to talk to your scouts about how to pack a backpack and how to pack appropriately for hiking their gear. Our furthest campsites are about a 1/4 mile hike. So it's not too far, but with us being at elevation, it can be a little more than you expect sometimes. And then my final just quick reminders that seem to catch people off guard is the weather. Definitely check the weather before you come up. Last weekend it was snowing. Currently it's 85 up there. I have no idea what the weather is going to look like. Usually the first couple weeks of summer are a little cooler. Maybe we get some rain. We've gotten snow in the past. And then the end of the summer is a lot drier and warmer. So you can check the weather before you come. If you Google Camp Pioneer Weather Oregon, it comes up. You can also check on NOAA. It has really accurate weather, and you can like drop the pin on the map. And then bugs are the thing that I always hear troops get surprised by. If you're coming in the first half of summer, definitely bring bug spray. Those mosquitoes are waiting for scouts. They didn't get scouts last year, and they are hungry for you. So just make sure you bring that for sure. All right, I'm going to turn it over to, I believe, Ben.
Thank you, Caitlin. So we're going to be discussing how camp is going to be. Let's start on over. Check-in this year are going to be staggered. So you will be given a time between 11 o'clock and 3 o'clock that you need to arrive at camp. There is going to be a difference, though, this year due to COVID. More than one, obviously, but one of them is going to be that we're going to be staging. We have a staging area in a separate part that we are going to have you guys meet at. And so if you can meet at Detroit Lake and then come and then at Detroit Lake, get into your cohorts that you will be in at during camp, so that when you arrive to camp, you will only be in a cohort. We need to make sure that your cohort, you arrive to camp in that cohort. And so you can have some staging at Detroit Lake, make sure that everything's ready before you show up. When you do that, when you show up at camp, you must have prepared for you your med forms and updated rosters. What's going to happen is there is going to be a check-in at that time. And if you are paid in full, everything is good. If you still need to pay some, or if you have potentially overpaid, things like that, I will need to meet with you sometime during the week to get that resolved. And it is very important that we have an updated roster in hand when you come to that meeting. If it is exactly the same as the ones you sent in, it still we'd be preferred if you could bring up the roster in hand with you so that everyone's uniform and saying we have everything good and we can cross-reference it against what we have. So make sure you have those rosters in hand with your med forms. And one final thing about showing up, the gas station that was previously at Detroit Lake has burned down due to the fire. So there is no gas station within 45 miles of camp. So make sure you gas up in Mill City. You're going to want to do that before and after you leave camp. So Mill City is the place to gas up. Make sure that you have gas. If you get up to camp and you are low on gas, it's going to be a struggle to get you home. So please make sure you are prepared as a Boy Scout should be. So visitors and guests, I saw a question in chat. Let me glance at it real quick. Correct. Due to the cohorts, parents will not be able to drive their kids all the way to camp. You will need to go to that staging area. Only people allowed at camp are those that are staying. And this is due to safety regulations and the CDC, the Oregon Health Authority guidelines that have been set forth for camp this year, which brings us to the part of visitors and guests. Currently, state guidelines do not allow for any visitors or guests to show up in camp. The only people that are allowed in camp are those that are going to be staying the entire time. This is to mitigate exposure, as we all know and have tried. So there is going to be a time. So, the time set forth when you get there to have your med check, to have those rosters handed over, and to make sure that you are ready to go before our program starts on Sunday. If you have any further questions about check-in, feel free to put them in the chat. The visitors and guests, as stated, need to stay that way. When when scouts or adults check in and out of camp, there are specific procedures that must be followed. This is a normal thing that campuses have done for years, but is extremely important this year for mitigation risks of COVID. The only ones that will be allowed to leave camp due to our current guidelines, which are subject to change, but the current guidelines is those that have been fully vaccinated. If you have not been vaccinated, you will not be able to leave camp during the camp time. And so you need to make sure that you have everything ready, everything you need with you, so that you don't have to leave campus if that's necessary. Okay, trading post and food service. There are going to be shifts that happen this year. We are going to have, if you have your guide handy, you will be able to see that there are multiple shifts for eating, rotation in the dining hall. You will be given an assigned shift of what time you go to your breakfast and your lunches and your dinners. And you need to make sure that you are courteous, as a scout should be, in making sure you eat in your time set forth so that we can get the dining hall cleaned and prepped for the next group that's going to be coming in after that. So there is 2 shifts that happen. And so our schedules are going to be a little bit tighter this year around meal times. Please make sure that you have your people that go to set up and ready for the meals prepared when your times arrive. Your trading post is also going to be in a assigned block. During the scheduling, there is what is known as a free block. That is the time that you will be allowed to go to the trading post. You need to make sure that you have those decisions made as cohorts so that the cohort goes to the trading post together. Again, this is subject to change, but that is what the current guidelines state. So as a cohort, you can go to the trading post during your free blocks that are staggered throughout the week. If there is something in particular that you would like to get in the trading post in a time that has passed, or if in a segmented time, we can talk to your commissioner and they'll relay it to me. I can work with you in a timely manner. But That's for dependables, things that you need. You will also have an opportunity to, I'm going to talk about this on the Caitlin knows, to purchase rifle tickets in the trading post. One of the rotations is to go to the shooting areas, and each kid for camp is giving each kid the opportunity to shoot one round for free this year. But any additional rounds that a kid would like in the rifle merit badge, they will need to purchase in the trading post. So please be prepared to look at your scheduling of when you're going to rifle and take the time to go to the trading post beforehand during your free block to get those tickets for the rifle shooting. Okay. And lastly, if you need any help at camp, there is something called commissioners. Our commissioner team is ready, rip roaring to go to help you out. Their job is your needs. And so they want to be there to help you out and to make sure that everything is going smoothly. They are going to be your primary contact for things in camp. Due to the way that camp has been set up, unfortunately, you will not be able to just swing by the office at any time that you like. You'll need to talk to the commissioners or relay information to us, and we'll be able to get things taken care of for you. Anything else you'd like me to talk about, Caitlin? Did I miss anything?
I think you're good. Sorry, I had trouble unmuting myself. A common thing.
If there are any questions of what I said, feel free to put them in the chat and I'll answer you as Jake starts talking.
Cool. Thank you, Ben. So now we're going to know what pre-camp stuff is going to look like. The real question is, what is camp going to look like? What are we going to be doing at camp? And this is what I'm so excited to share with you. So we kind of know a little bit from the council section. We'll be in cohorts. And so what that's going to look like at Pioneer is that at camp or prior to camp, you'll be receiving by campsite or by cohort what your schedule will look like for the week. And we have an example that we'll show you in a second. And essentially your cohort will be going around camp, staying in those sections. And sections are going to look like 1.5 hour blocks by area twice a week. So each area a cohort will visit twice for 1.5 hours, meaning that each area scouts will be able to be in for a total of 3 hours throughout the week. And then during that time, there's also some time for showering, going to the trading post on a per cohort basis. So you'll know the schedule. It should look theoretically like a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday schedule. So you'll know that closer to camp. And that kind of brings us to merit badge selection. When a cohort gets to an area, there will be 2 to 3 merit badge counselors there that are going to have a list of merit badges that we're going to show you in a second. And the scouts are going to be able to kind of self-select where they want to go. So for instance, handicraft is offering, let's say, communications, art, music, and game design is in STEM. But you'll scouts will be able to decide, thank you, what they're going to want to do out of those 4 merit badges. They'll be able to go to a counselor, work on that merit badge, and get it within their total 3 hours at that area. If your scout already has leatherwork or communications and they don't want to do what the other scouts are doing, that's fine. That's why we have 3 available. They'll be able to choose one of the other options available. If there absolutely is no way that they want either of those 4, if they can't stand communications, leatherwork, art, or music, there will be an opportunity to kind of work independently with the counselor, but that'll be kind of figured out on a case-by-case basis. Joe just asked, will scouts have a chance to preview merit badges? Yeah, it should all be in the program guide. It's also on the screen now, so you should be able to reference that. Cohorts are going to be in the same area at the same time, so we're going to be relying on adults to be conscious of that 6-foot social distance between different cohorts. And then within the cohorts, it'll be fine to keep them 3 feet apart from each other. So that's kind of why we'll be relying on adults a little bit to kind of keep things smooth and safe in each area, helping remind kids to keep masks on, helping kids remember that 3 feet or 6 feet social distancing. We'll be relying on that. But also, we want you guys to have fun. We want you to relax. That's why we have programming designed just for adult leaders. We want you guys to be able to kind of take a week and relax in our amazing, beautiful, spacious area that we have. Then also we will be offering evening program. Evening program is going to be from about 7 to 9 at night. and that's going to be in 2-hour-long blocks. So from 7 to 8 and from 8 to 9, we're going to be offering evening programs. And what that looks like at Camp Pioneer is that each area has come up with their own super stellar, super fun activity that is roughly related to the area. Stuff like breaking open rocks in nature and checking stuff out, or the zombie survival merit badge, stuff like that. And you'll know the week's list of activities before they all happen. In the morning at breakfast, we'll have a list up for each of the cohorts, and your group is going to decide to rank that evening's program on a 1 to 3 basis. And we will do our best to crunch the numbers and assign each cohort their evening program that night, keeping you in your 1 to 3 range. Hopefully that's not too confusing. We'll show you at camp. By lunch, you'll get your assignment. I know it's weird. We're doing our best to kind of give you guys some choice. But evening program is my favorite part of camp. So we're going to hope to keep it fun and exciting and fresh. Back on the cohort thing really quick. I know it's been mentioned, but I just wanted to highlight the cohorts are going to be together all week in each area, at waterfront, at shooting sports, in the training post. So as adult leaders kind of deciding beforehand who's going to be with who, be really careful and specific about the relationships and the bonds that you're kind of putting together. That's going to make or break the week for the Scouts. So be super careful. And on that note, if you want to keep your cohorts together, because let's say if 2 cohorts are in handicraft, if you want both those cohorts to be from your troop, let us know. We'll have the ability for you guys to let us know if you want them to be together or separate. And that will be, yeah. Paul said, will the mile swim be available? No, mile swim will not be available. Because mile swim is a week-long dedicated program, it's just not possible through COVID. On that note, I want to highlight with rifle shooting and archery, those merit badges are not being offered. I guess, Caitlin, if you go back to the list, just so we can reference that. The time in shooting sports will just be open shoot. So our goal is, because it's only 3 hours total, that's just simply not enough time to teach those merit badges well and give Scouts the time to shoot. So we've made the decision to just leave that time up to open shoot. And just to be clarified, because it's on my list, there are no merit badge signups. There's no pre-work you need to do. There's no merit badge midway. Just show up at your assigned block and your Scouts will kind of self-select where they want to go. And just to highlight once more, the aim for each area is to give a Scout 1 merit badge. So all of these that you see on the list, we've chosen with our directors which ones are the most popular and which ones are also doable in 3 hours with minimal pre-camp work done. So while this list looks slim, a lot of thought has gone into this list with working with our directors. These are the merit badges that they feel confident they can offer your Scouts, doing a good job, giving them proper time to digest the material and content. So they'll be able to offer 1 per area. And that's what I got about program. So I think he's Karen a question about older Scouts. We are working with each area to make sure that in the area, there's going to be choice for Scouts who may not fit into the mold of these 4 merit badges or 2 merit badges per area. So for instance, like in archery, older Scouts will be able to shoot. At waterfront, they'll be able to swim or boat. In nature, if they already have those 4 merit badges, we'll be setting stuff up so that they won't be bored and having a terrible time. But also that we love to help them, have them help younger Scouts get through the content and learn. But they're not going to be bored. We will set stuff up so there'll be space for them to do just as much work. And with that, if a Scout has a partial rifle merit badge already earned, yeah, so if they come to camp and they can qualify for rifle shooting or archery shooting, we'll give them that partial with that that qualification marked off. We'll hand it back to you, and then you guys as the troop, with your merit badge counselor, will turn that into a complete. So yeah, if they're able to qualify, absolutely they can earn the merit badge for sure. And unless there's any pertinent questions, I think I can hand it over to Caitlin. Oh, and then the next slide, this is our schedule. So you can kind of see this is roughly what a schedule will look like. You can see there's free blocks in there, and then there's your designated times at program areas, and then your selected shift for dinner and breakfast and stuff like that. are you offering the Ranger program? I'm assuming you're referring to Cascade Rangers. Unfortunately, Cascade Rangers has been cut this year due to COVID requirements. You will see though on Wednesday, there's a hiking explore time. Wednesday morning is when we're going to kind of push for everybody to get out of camp, go on a hike, go to Bear Lake, go to the ice caves, go do one of our amazing, beautiful hikes in the Jefferson Wilderness. That's going to kind of take the place of Cascade Rangers this summer.
I do want to just jump in to clarify that we won't have the staff guides we would have for Cascade Rangers, but all of those hikes are still open. And we have a lot of staff who they're at Pioneer because they love being in the outdoors and have great recommendations about places to go. So any of those free blocks, if your unit wants to take a quick hike, or for the longer one, if you want to check out the ice caves, take a longer hike, if you want to go out and camp somewhere overnight, please talk to our staff about that when you're at camp, because we would love to make that happen and set that up for you guys.
Totally. And Greg, you asked about the rifle archery certified instructors. So if you guys as a camp or as a troop have merit badge counselors for archery or rifle, that's amazing and wonderful. And if you want to do that in your camp time, you're more than welcome to. I just want to be clear that all we're going to be able to provide this summer is time for open shooting to qualify. And when they go to their hour and a half at shooting sports, that's going to be split between archery and rifle. So if you have a scout that is a sharpshooter and they can qualify, early on with rifle, awesome, that's amazing. And they can get rifle, no problem with them. But we are not able to provide anything further. So yeah, I believe that's good on program for me. Unless anyone has any fast fingers with another question. But
Awesome. I will move on to the next one. I did want to answer Gary's question about hiking. Scouts that are not vaccinated, we understand your cohorts are likely to be mixed. They can still do activities together. There are just different regulations on the spacing between them and mask wearing. So we'll cover that at camp. And if you watched the webinar from earlier, they covered that as well. And thank you, Matt. I'm not the website guy, but I will talk to him about taking Cascade Rangers off for this year. All right, so this next slide is about communication before and at camp. Before camp, that session we're in right now, we've got this. We have a bunch of pre-recorded webinars. There is the leader's guide and program guide that you can access through the CPC website. Please make sure you're checking back in on those regularly. Kind of the theme of this year is that regulations and state guidelines are changing constantly. And so we keep adjusting our plan to fit those. And so those are very likely to change as well. So when you open up the leader's guide and program guide, they should stay at the top in bold letters like the last they were updated. I think the most recent one was the end of May. So just kind of check back periodically to make sure a newer or updated version hasn't been released. If you have any questions, you can always email the council office. If it's camp specific, please email me at pioneer@bsa.camp. I try to be pretty good about being on top of my emails and responding to those. If it's questions about payments, registrations, or changing the amount of youth or adults, that's when you would email the camp office, which is the Cascade Pacific Council. The other big pre-camp communication that'll be coming up is our 2-week call. So 2 weeks before your unit arrives to camp, I will be calling just to confirm numbers, answer any last minute questions, make sure everyone is set. The only contact info I can see is whatever is listed as your main contact on Tentaroo. It happens every summer where I go to call a troop and I get a parent whose kid aged out 2 years ago and they have no idea what's happening with the troop. So just please use this as a reminder to double check that the person who is listed as your primary contact is indeed the person you want me to call. Because I want to be able to get a hold of you before camp begins. Once we get to camp, you can call us directly at the number listed here. I will, however, caution that email is still best. Email is guaranteed to come through and have someone sitting there and see it. The phone does not always get answered, especially if my team is out bouncing around camp, talking to people, solving issues, and helping people have a great time. And turns out my generation hates voicemails. And so I try to listen to them, but I found I don't get a lot of help on that front. So email is probably the best and quickest way to get a hold of us. If you want to mail stuff to your units, I highly recommend getting letters at camp. Goodie bags is always super fun. The address is there on the page as well. Please just make sure you list the scout's name as well as their unit and then what days they're at camp. Sometimes we get stuff 3 weeks ahead of time, and it's good to know we need to store it somewhere for a couple weeks before that scout actually shows up at camp. Let's see here. All right, so we have reached the question and answer session. I am going to kind of go back through the chat and we'll answer some questions, but if you have other questions, feel free to put them in the chat or unmute yourself to ask those.
Can I jump in and answer Amy's question really quick that I just saw on
Yeah, go for it.
program? So Amy, you asked if a small troop is with another cohort with a different troop, how do they pick activities? So I just want to be clear that when a cohort goes to an area, if it's 8, kids or 4 each or 4 from different troops, if those 4 kids want to go to a different merit badge, that's fine. We're just still being mindful of the 3 feet social distancing within a cohort, and then 6 feet if a different cohort is also doing that merit badge. But we also understand that it's going to be a little awkward at first if you're in a cohort with a different troop. But scouting should be about meeting new people, and we're going to be relying on adults to kind of help smooth that experience. But they will be able to, if those 4 boys want to do something else, or girls, they can self-select. So I hope that alleviates that a little bit.
And then I'm gonna pop in and add a little bit more. So the point of cohorts isn't to prevent COVID, it's to contain it if we have some sort of scout who comes in and accidentally brings COVID. So that rather than having to set aside a whole campsite, we only have to have that little cohort sit out until we figure out what's happening and get guidance from the state. So in my mind, smaller cohorts are better. If you are coming up as a small unit or maybe a unit that has a cohort and a half, I won't be mixing your unit with scouts from another unit into one cohort. They will be 2 separate cohorts. They might have a similar schedule. And the way that is going to look is we will probably have 2 or 3 cohorts in most of our campsites just based on numbers, but the campsites will be marked and divided so each cohort has their own area. And then you'll be sharing central facilities like a kaibo and a wash stand, and just being really mindful of cleaning up and kind of keeping social distancing within those communal spaces. So if you have a full cohort, if you come up with 12 youth, say, there's still a really good chance you'll share a campsite because we've only got 10 campsites in camp, and each one fits somewhere between 20 and 30 people. Okay, so I'm reading Ed's question, which is that you have 3 adult spots that will be split in half a week by 6 adults. If that is the way, if that's all you can work out, I would recommend you reach out to council office just to get that clarified. What we're really trying to minimize this year is having one adult pop in for a day and then switch out for another one, just because we're really trying to reduce the amount of people coming in and out of camp so that we can keep risk low so that we don't have to sideline anyone. So if you need to switch adults throughout the week, you just need to be very clear on who is coming in and when. All of those people need to be on your roster. And then we want to make sure that we're not having people come up and leave and come up and leave, and minimize that amount of switchover. All right, what other questions do we have?
For the in-camp cooking day, do we need to bring our own mess kits, or is that part of what's the cooking stuff that's provided?
Yeah, so please do bring your own mess kit. We will provide you Dutch ovens and all the gear you need to cook the meals. We're planning for a chicken tortilla soup, which we did in 2019, worked out really well. It turns out it's hard to burn soup, which is my goal when we put scouts in charge of cooking. And then lunch is hot dogs that day. So if you want to bring your own mess kits and any fun extras or toppings, I totally recommend that. Otherwise, camp will provide all the gear you need to actually cook the meals.
I think there was another question about older scouts. I totally hear and understand any sort of concerns about older scouts. It's definitely going to be on the ad hoc end of the spectrum. Essentially, how it should work, it will work, is when your cohort shows up to the program area for the first time. that is when it will be decided what's going to kind of happen. So you'll self-split up into the merit badges you want to do. Our plan is to have 2 of the merit badge counselors be experts in half the merit badges. And then if there's still leftovers, we will have our more experienced director staff kind of be able to handle that. Our directors are amazing. They're super, super, super great. They will be able to, with their knowledge and experience, be able to program on the fly for those older scouts. I don't imagine a situation where there will be just nothing for them to do. We will have planned stuff for older scouts who don't fit the mold of the offered merit badges.
I missed who asked the question, but someone did ask about if scouts want to work on a merit badge that we are not offering this year. We do have merit badge books on property for a lot of the badges we traditionally offer, which is not every merit badge in the world, but there is a much broader range. And if that is something they want to do in their downtime, feel free to come talk to us. We are happy to help with that. Okay, I gotta make my chat bigger so I can see all of these. I did see one question in there about a unit with 1 female scout. You do need to have a female adult leader present for YP. If that is not something that you are able to make happen, please reach out and let me know, and I can look into putting you in a campsite with another unit that does have adult female leaders. But with YP regulations, you do need to have a female adult over the age of 21 sleeping in the campsite each night.
Hey, Caitlin, I just noticed that I had sent you a direct chat message, and I think you've replied to other people. You were intending to reply to the whole group, but the way Zoom works, it just defaults to chatting back directly to me.
You are correct. So let me switch that to everyone and I will repeat my answer. So I was answering Kent about permits required to go into the wilderness area around us. There are permits that are required. It is a self-registration at a little kiosk at the trailhead. I believe there is a small fee associated. I want to say it's $1. It might be as many as $3, but it's not anything huge at all. Just when you self-register, and we can work that out at camp to walk you through that process. And then I saw that Kay asked about allergy-safe cooking equipment. It depends on the allergen. For the campsite cooking, we just have a large Dutch oven, and then an alternative will be prepared if there are people with allergies who don't fit into that meal. I think that meal, the vegetarian, is the only one we generally offer because it is gluten-free and it can be dairy-free if you opt not to put cheese on top of it. So it's a choose your own adventure kind of thing. For the kitchen, we do work hard to keep allergens separate from the main meals, but we need to have a special needs form turned into camp like really soon so we can order that stuff. We can do a lot of the main ones, gluten-free, dairy-free, vegetarian. If it gets much more complicated than that, we do often ask that scouts help provide and supplement some of their own meals, just because we're a small camp and we get our food shipment in once a week, and so it's hard sometimes to get really niche specialty stuff. But if you reach out and start that conversation with the council office, we can definitely get that taken care of and make sure everyone knows what the plan is.
There were 2 swimming questions. Gary asked when swim tests are going to happen. The plan is for swim tests to happen during the initial check-in and tour. So you'll check in at the parking lot, and then when you get to the waterfront area, you'll do swim checks. Hopefully that answers your question. And then when you get to waterfront for your program time, you'll be good to go and swim. And then Beth wants to know how cold the water is. We don't measure it in terms of coldness, we measure it in terms of refreshingness. And the Camp Pioneer Lake is always refreshing. I cannot guarantee you it's going to be a warm sauna bath. I can guarantee you it will be refreshing. The later it gets in the season, the less refreshing it is. But it's not. It's honestly, it's a pretty good temperature compared to other lakes in the area.
Yeah, our lake is primarily snow melt. However, the first couple of weeks it can be very brisk and refreshing, as Jake alluded to. Later in the summer, it gets pretty warm. I think we had a really pitiful polar bear swim where it was like 71 degrees at 6 in the morning, which is insane for a polar bear swim. We have to put ice on the docks and like really, jazz it up. So it's not too bad for sure. I see a question from Joe about bringing your own tents. If you would like to bring your own tents to set up, especially with cohort restrictions and stuff, there's plenty of room in the campsites. Most of the campsites have room to set up, I would guess, like 3 or 4 extra tents. We do have some we can loan out as well, like little 2-person tents. They are all the tents we've used for camping merit badge in the past. So you may find that the poles from one accidentally ended up in the other one, but we have enough to swap out and get you with what you need, if that is the case. I don't know. We have not thought through whether or not we were doing polar bear this year. I think we could find a way to either let your scouts earn that or some other equivalent. We'll just have to figure out how to separate it by cohorts. And then in answer to Matt's question, we do not have the big carts. We've decommissioned those because they've proven a little too big for a lot of our scouts to handle. We do have a lot of wheelbarrows though. All right, Kenneth is asking about hammock camping. Yes, you can absolutely set up hammocks. We have plenty of trees. We just ask that you are kind in tying those hammocks to the trees and in removing them afterwards. And let's see here. So Beth, early arrival, if you are coming from a pretty significant distance away and you talk to the council office, you may have early arrival. That will be coming into camp Saturday night. We ask that you arrive after 6 p.m. You'll come in, park. If you come to the office, there will be a map with instructions and directions to your campsite on the door, so you can find your way to your campsite, get moved in. And then on Sunday morning, when your normal check-in time is, you'll come back to the parking lot and we'll do the check-in process. The caveat to Saturday arrival or early arrival is that my staff is not on duty, so I don't actually have any staff who are present and able to help you get situated or moved in. And then that's also, if you haven't worked on staff, we have a 20 to 24 hour window of downtime between weeks. And so I find it really important to protect that time for my staff and to let them kind of enjoy the camp. So for that first evening, we'll ask that your troop stays within their campsite or the shower house, but isn't roaming around or going into areas unsupervised. And when I do the 2-week phone call, we'll talk over that more. Let's see here. All right, and then I've got a question from Kelly asking about adult training during camp. We have the capability to do some adult trainings, like YP, stuff like that. We don't, with the current cohort rotation system, we don't have time to do all of the aquatic safety ones we normally offer. Jake, can you think of other adult trainings we are offering? Or is that it?
Did you mention Leave No Trace?
I did not mention Leave No Trace.
Mm.
Usually that's our outbound team that does that, and we do not have an outbound team this summer.
Not that I can think of right now.
Okay. We can definitely do YP. And then if there are other ones you have questions about, please feel free to email me and I can look into the requirements and see if that's something we're able to offer.
I think I can teach the adult napping merit badge. There'll be time available for those that are looking for that. So we'll make it work into our schedule.
Very brave of you to offer that, Ben.
I want to just hype up really quickly. I don't think it gets enough play in our program guide. We are offering the radio merit badge this year, which is incredible. And last summer, a few staff that aren't me, worked really hard to build a Radio Shack off our program deck. If you've been to Pioneer before, it's really cool and awesome, and it's dedicated to radio. So if you need to get your scouts hyped about something, get them hyped about radio. We're gonna do some cool stuff with it. I just want to hype it because I feel like we should have given it more exclamation points in the program guide, but it's gonna be amazing. So just putting that out there.
We actually, so with last summer not being able to run camp, we did have a small crew up at Pioneer that put in a lot of work, retrofitting a lot of things, building new things, and getting camp ready for this summer. We have brand new docks in our lake, which if you've been to Pioneer in the last 20 years and seen the same docks, brand new docks is really exciting. We've got, like Jake said, we've moved the STEM to a whole new area. It's bigger. They can have several different classes going on. They have the radio shack. We're in the process of putting in new kaibos. There's been a lot of work done around camp. So I'm really excited that you guys have chosen this year. You're going to have a really great experience.
And most notably, somebody painted the map. So I don't know. That's probably the highlight of it. But I don't know who did that, but someone did.
Easily the best project all summer. So I see a question about adults arriving for pickup at the end of camp. If they pull into the parking lot, that's where they can hang out. There should be, I'm guessing that we'll do very like staggered leaving, kind of the same way we do staggered arrival, just so not everyone is milling about in the parking lot. So just make sure you communicate the time that the dismissal for your unit is, and they can come in then and pick up scouts. It should be pretty clear. The parking lot is gravel, and then there's a big rope across to prevent you from going any further. Matt's question about radio operators, ham radio operators in town. If that's something you're interested in, please reach out to me and we'll see if we can make that happen. I don't know what equipment exactly we're having yet. I've kind of given that task to another person to find the radio equipment because that is not my skill set.
Paul asked about swimming rank requirements. So TTFC is going to be kind of split up a little bit this summer. So each area is going to be kind of tackling or able to tackle TTFC trail to first class requirements in their area. So if your scouts go to waterfront and they are tenderfoots and they want to get those requirements, they're absolutely going to be able to, the waterfront staff will be able to lead them through that. That will just be their choice type in that area in lieu of swimming merit badge or open boat or open swim, but they can absolutely do that for sure.
If you've asked a question and we've not yet answered it, please feel free to repeat your question. We may have missed a couple here. Workbooks. So we are not having any like pre-workbooks required for our merit badges. So scouts will be able to come into the class and work through that with the counselor. If there's any written stuff they need to do for that merit badge, we will provide that. So you do not need to come with anything pre-printed.
Every merit badge on our merit badge list is like totally doable at camp with no prereqs. Should you want something that fits in an area that is doable that you guys have a merit badge counselor for or want to work on, feel free to do that. But if it's on our list, roll into camp, you'll be able to get it without any pre-work.
Fishing is absolutely a possibility at camp. We do have a lake that is stocked, and you actually don't need a fishing license to fish in our lake. It is catch and keep 2 for any youth, and then adults is catch and release only. I would recommend if you've got a favorite pole or bait that you bring that. Otherwise, you can rent a small selection of poles and bait from the trading post. And it's mostly trout in there. I think we've got rainbow trout primarily. Probably a lot more than usual after no fishing last summer. Awesome. All right, I'm going to hang out for a couple more minutes. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to toss them out. Otherwise, it sounds like we're kind of wrapping up here. We have got lots of great things at the trading post. I am particularly a fan of we've got a really good collection of shirts and sweatshirts and apparel. We've got stickers are fun, tons of snacks. all of the delicious things you could ever possibly imagine eating, knives, a lot of other Pioneer swag, and then things you may have forgotten, like toiletries or shower shoes or any of that stuff around. So it's kind of a one-stop shop there.
There's also some crafts that the kids will probably be able to do in their downtime. If they want to do it during cohort time or their free time, they can use those knives that they buy to whittle something or to build something with some gimp, things like that.
Caitlin, there's a question about a cohort fishing off a dock.
Yeah, so the dock regulations in the past have been 2 scouts per dock. With the new docks, I think they can support a little more weight than that. And most of our docks have 2 sections. So I think we'll see in practicality how many kids we can put on a dock before it sinks below. And then we'll cut the limit to a little bit below that. But I think it would be safe to say we could probably get 6 to 7 people on one dock. That said, I don't know that you want to be fishing over your buddy's head because that's how people get hooked. So you might want to either pick our largest dock, which is a nature dock, and is long enough for people to spread out, or go in shifts or maybe 2 adjacent docks. We've got 7 docks around camp, so there are a lot of places to fish from.
Beth asked a really great question about Campfire. And as Campfire's biggest advocate, I'm also an expert able to answer this question. Beth, Campfire is my favorite part about summer camp. I don't think summer camp is quintessentially summer camp without Campfire. So I think our guarantee to you, all of you, is that Campfire will be happening in some capacity, in some enjoyable way. It may not look the same, it may look a little different, but we promise you there will be Campfire in some form. By the time you come to camp, we will know what Campfire looks like for sure. That is our guarantee, but it will happen.
We definitely understand that this is probably a little frustrating to not have solid answers to stuff. I promise we are with you on that feeling. But please trust, like, we love camp. We're doing this because we love Pioneer and we love those summers so much. And we really are trying to make this as close to a fun, normal summer as we can do safely.
Ooh, on the topic of Campfire, on the schedule, Wednesday night is my new favorite activity called intra-troop campfire. If you've been around to camps before, you might have seen inter-troop campfire, where all the troops come together and put on campfire. Due to COVID, it'll be intra, which I think is delightful. And staff are going to be kind of coming around to campsites, and we'll be letting you guys have the night to kind of put on your own thing. So if you have the ability to kind of pre-prep your scouts for doing some skits or some songs or taking some time before camp to figure something out, that would be wonderful. Those are always better than when scouts come up to us like the day of and be like, can you help me learn the skit? It's still going to be funny, but not as polished. And then staff will bring around snacks, like a little Cracker Barrel on Wednesday nights. It's going to be fun. I'm excited for it. Just prep your scouts would be wonderful.
And that's a great activity that if you do have multiple cohorts in the same campsite, you can kind of take turns and, show off a little bit of your flair and the best your cohort can come up with and still keep that social distancing. Phil has a question about overnights and outbounds. And yes, those are still available. All of the traditional hikes we offer are available. And then we have more at camp. If you have questions on which ones are options and you want to do some pre-planning, feel free to reach out to the camp email and I can send you our list. You are absolutely able to go on day hikes. Overnights are also possible. You can take either the cohort or just a portion of the cohort as long as you're still observing YP guidelines. So that would be 2 adult leaders of the appropriate genders with each portion. So if you are a larger cohort and you've got 4 adults with you, it should be really easy to split. If you're a smaller one, you might need to do a little more creative thinking in order to send out just part of your cohort and still meet YP. And we can help you figure that out too if you need help. All right, anything else?
Thank you for coming. It was
Thank you.
here.
Thank you, guys. Again, our email is down at the bottom of this page. If you think of any other questions, please feel free to shoot an email to pioneer@bsa.camp and we will get them answered. We're really looking forward to seeing all you guys at Pioneer this summer.
Oh, Paul stuck in a last minute question.
You did.
Paul, so merit badge counselors are able to assist on partials. I don't know, is bird watching a merit badge? I honestly did not know that until just now. If you have partials, we can't guarantee that every single merit badge, like someone with a partial with dentistry, probably not going to happen. Bring your partials and we can see what we can do. But we cannot guarantee that every single merit badge. I bet we could find someone for bird watching, but bring them and we'll figure it out if we can do it.
Nice. Awesome. All right, guys, have a good evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone.